Hello YouTubers. A few weeks ago it was my 40th birthday. What? Alright. A few weeks ago it was my 65th birthday, and the wife says I must tell the truth. It's my 65th birthday and she bought me a very nice Tamiya AROCS 3348 tipper truck. And guess what? I'm going to build it and I'm going to share it with you. In this part one I'm going to show you all the different parts that I bought to complete the build, and we're going to look at the transmitter and receiver, servos, motor setup along with the Beier controller. Time to connect a few parts and see if we can get it to work. Okay, I just took the manual out of the box, and as always with the Tamiya kits, the first thing you need to do is check your RC equipment works. You're then going to end up moving on to fitting your servo horns, and it's important that the servos are centered. Fairly important. Servos are centered. You can adjust them later, but it's useful to get them more or less in the central position to fit the horns as per the diagrams. So that's what I'm going to do first off. Transmitter stuff. I've got my wiring diagram. What I'm interested in is the bit on the left here, which is how the receiver connects to the SFR-1. This might seem OCD to you, but I've fitted many of these units, and I don't wish to sound cocky. I've never had a problem. I've never had any issues with things not working properly, or had to reposition jumpers and things, and I believe that's because I make sure that I work to the diagram and double check things as I do them, and it's so much easier to make sure this is all working before you put it on the truck, because when you're on the truck you're going to be working in a much tighter space. So I can sit over there. Here's my radio. I've got a box here of all of my goodies, which I'm just going to put on top of those tools. First thing I'm going to take out of here is a battery, because they're not all in here. This particular transmitter uses 8 batteries. I'll just take the one out when it's not in use in case there's any residual drain on the batteries. Just switch it on, see if it's working, which it is. So we'll leave that over there for the moment. Here's our receiver. This is a receiver that came with the radio link transmitter. It's already pre-bound to the transmitter. You may buy them separately. Depending on your make, you'll find plenty of information, particularly on YouTube, how to bind your receiver to your transmitter. In the case of this transmitter, what is channel 1 on there equates to channel 1 on here. What is 2 on there, 2 on here, 3 on there, 3 on here, and so forth, all of the way down for 10 channels. Although this is a 12 channel receiver, it's a 10 channel transmitter, and I plan on using all 10 channels, which you probably can't see, but they're in red down the side down there, 1 to 10. So that's my receiver. 2 aerials off the side. Signal goes to the top, as you can see on the little diagram here. Positive will be in the middle and the negative rail is along the bottom. That's that. There's the Beier SFR-1 heatsink on the back for the motor control. As per the diagram, there are 2 wires that are hardwired to the unit, these 2 here, and I've already marked them up. Again, you might think it's a little bit over the top, but when you've got this fitted on the truck and you're rerouting all these wires neatly and you're left with that little bit of wire there, you think, is that one, or that one? So I always find it helpful to just use it's just a little bit of self-adhesive paper to go around, mark them at what they are, and then when you've got it all fitted up and working, you can rip them off afterwards if you want to. So these 2 need to go into the receiver. I've already marked the channel numbers on there. This one's channel 3. Signal to the top, so that's 1, 2, 3. So that's gone into number 3. This one goes into channel number 1. Signal to the top, the brown wire, it is the negative. You may have some, I don't know whether I've got one up on this servo. The other wiring colours you'll get will be that. White is the signal, red positive and black negative. Again, if you're unsure about those, you'll find plenty of information on the net about them. So this is steering channel 1. That one goes in there. So those 2 we wire up straight away. I'm going to connect my gear servo direct to the radio link. You could actually use, there are 2 channels on the Beier unit where you could connect the gears directly to that. Why am I doing it this way? Well, by connecting it to the radio, I can assign gears to a switch quite easily, and I always find that much easier to control the gears with a 3-position switch. Let's just grab hold of the servos next. This one is a metal geared 9 kilogram servo, and I've already marked this one up, servo L. It goes to L on this unit here. The SFR tells you which way around to put your wires, so the negative rail on this one is on the top, and L is marked on the circuit board, which I can just see through there. I think I've got a bit of dirt in there. Did have, excuse me. It's also marked L down the side of there as well. I use a metal geared servo on the steering because, and a powerful servo at 9 kilograms, because with the sheer weight of the truck, if you use a smaller servo, sort of a 3 kg or something, I found that they struggle to turn the steering at very low speeds. This one here is a Carson CS5, which is a 5 kilogram plastic geared servo, and this one is for the gears, which doesn't need to be a metal geared servo. The amount of force required to change the gears is relatively low, so 3 kg servo is more than enough. As I said, this one's going straight to the radio, so I've already marked that one up. Gears to channel 9, which it says on there. In this case, the white is the signal wire, so I need to find 9 on here. Back in 3. There we go, that's number 9 in there, so my 2 servos are in. I've just put the horns on the top at the moment, just purely so that you can see them moving easier. Motor, I'm using a Poison truck motor, which typically spins maximum RPM about 5400 RPM, whereas the Tamiya motor is over 10,000. This is a much more realistic motor, and the torque is lower down on it. For the purposes of testing, there's a slight issue in as much as the connections on the Beier unit, which are these 2 in the middle here, clearly marked up on here as motor plus and motor minus, although it's not polarised. It just means that your motor will spin one way. If it's not right, swap the wires around, it'll spin the other way, or you can change the reverse on your transmitter. There's several ways of doing that, but effectively what I've got to try and do is connect these together, which I can't do. So for the purposes of testing, I'm just going to use a couple of crocks. So I'm going to put one onto there. The yellow's the positive over there. Blue is going to be the negative. I'm just using a green cable for what it's worth, doesn't really matter. And pop that onto there. If I can just get it to hold, there we go. I'm just going to try and keep this separate from the power, so that can go over there. Now, what I do when I'm doing this is I just use a little bit of tape to just hold it down, because while you're messing around you don't want the connections to touch each other and cause a short circuit. So I'm just going to put a bit of tape on there and a bit of tape on there to keep those 2 completely separate, and I've got the same issue with these 2 here. I don't want them to touch. You'll notice I've not connected a battery up to anything yet, and I have no intention of doing so. That's the last thing you do. Once you're absolutely certain that everything is wired up how you want it. So I've got the motor wired up now, and these are just kept apart on my mat. Talking of power, that is the input for the Beier system, and the battery I'm going to use as the familiar Tamiya connection on the end. They're obviously not compatible, so you can buy these off the internet, which just allows you to convert from the one to the other. Okay, so I'm just going to put that on the Dean's end to start with. It's always quite tight. So that now will connect to that, and obviously, as I said a minute or 2 ago, I'm not connecting that. That'll be the last thing I connect up. Let's look at a few of the other peripherals now for the Beier unit. What I've got here is a volume control. Now, you can plug a volume control. You'll notice it's got a brown connector on it, and there's a brown connector in there, not to be confused with the standby. It's the one marked Lautstark in German, meaning loud, volume. I'm going to put that one on there. If I put that on there, the volume control, this volume control will control the audio coming out of this unit. I plan to connect the volume control to prop 6. There are 6 different outputs on this unit. 1, 2, 3, 4 are your 2 sticks, and there are 2 further outputs. Yes, one of them I'm going to use for volume control, and one of them I'm going to use for cruise control, so I'm not going to fit that. Yeah, but if you're not using direct volume control from your radio, you're going to need to fit a volume control, otherwise your volume's on 100% all the time. This is the larger volume control that they do. They also do a miniature one which I don't have at the moment to show you. This is one thing that's very important. This is your standby switch, and that's in the off position at the moment. The standby switch plugs into where it says standby, no surprise there. It doesn't turn the unit off. What it says in the manual is it reduces the amount of current flowing through the unit to a minuscule amount, but for all intents and purposes you can see it as an on-off switch. It also allows you to reset the unit, obviously by switching it off and then back on again. I always use the standby switch, and on my model somewhere I usually drill a hole in the back of the cab and mount it in the back of the cab. So that's your on-off switch. If you're leaving the model for a period of time, you'll obviously disconnect the battery, but for normal usage, if you're out on a truck meet day or something, you can quite easily control it with this switch here. So that's the standby switch plugged into the module there. I've not put the loudspeaker in, as I've said. You can buy the USB, KUSB 2 as it's called, which is that part and that part. Those are the two parts. I already have the cable over here, which is plugged into my PC, because I've built quite a lot of models and I do the same thing each time. It's convenient for me to just have that ready for when I want to do the programming on the unit. But if it's your first time, obviously it comes with the cable, which I won't be using, but the bit I do want is that part. Now, one side of this obviously plugs into the board, the other side of it has got a USB, I think it's called a USB-B, I might be wrong, this type of connector here. It obviously is compatible with the cable that they give you there, and what I do with this, you may have seen some of my other videos, is if that's the back of the truck, I will make a small rectangular hole and I will stick that in the back of the truck, usually fairly close to the switch, which is convenient then for me to plug it into the computer and switch it on and off. If you don't use this, which allows you to use the Sound Teacher software directly off your computer, you are going to have to use the SD card, which is mounted here in the side of the Beier unit, and I have to say that can be pretty frustrating, because whenever you want to make any changes you have to take that out, put it in a card reader, put it in your PC, update it, take it out, bring it back, plug it in here, start it up. It's a lot of faff when, quite honestly, for the sake of 19 quid, if you put this in, you can just do it down the line in seconds and not mess. That has to stay in, by the way. Now the KUSB, again, it's marked clearly on there which way around you do it, so that goes in there, which is orange, red, brown. So that's the USB control. I'm just going to plug that this stage into my computer, although this isn't powered, you'll still see this light up because 5 volts will come down the line from my computer. You can just see that little blue light come on there. Let's just move that out of the way. See what other goodies we've got in here. Speaker. I've kept it in the box so it doesn't get damaged. Here do a couple of different size speakers. The other one is a little bit smaller than this. I recommend the bigger one. It's also got a better frequency response. Normally comes with a cable separately. I've soldered it on. Okay, be careful with this one. It goes onto the white one marked loudspeaker or loudspeaker, not on the one loudstark, which is for the volume control. Again, it only goes on one way around. So we're going to put that in. Click. So that's the loudspeaker in place. These two connectors on the end here, I'm not going to bother with now. Those are your output lines. That's all of these here, which is for all of your lighting. You know, your rear lights, your stop tails, your front indicators, your spots. Anything and everything will be assigned to those pins there. And we'll have a look at the AKL8 connectors for that later on in the series. But for the moment, all I'm interested in doing is establishing that I've got correct connection between the radio, the receiver, and it's doing what I want it to do in terms of it'll operate the motor and it'll operate the servos, and we get some sound coming out the end of there. Let me just bring that over there. Now, there are now these to connect up. Now these are the connections between the radio and the SFR unit. So I'm just going to go through these one at a time. So I've already marked them up. This one on here, BF4 to channel 2. How do I know that? Because I've set it up previously and I've taken it all apart again so that I can show you it working. But once you get it working, I do strongly recommend you put these markers on, because then when you disassemble it, you can put it all back together and it's quite child's play. That's the plan anyway. So this is BF4, and I have to go with the orange on the inside. So they're marked up 3 and 4, so number 4 goes in there. There's 3, 4, 5, 6 of the first ones along there. You can see them on the diagram here, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that one goes in there, and it goes to channel 2 on my transmitter. There's channel 2 in there. Next one I've got, that's a spare one. Another spare. You actually get a couple of those with the Beier unit when it comes. If you need any more, you can get them off the internet. Right, channel 6 to number 6. So 3, 4, 5, number 6. Make sure I get that in there. Through to number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's channel 6 in there. Now we're missing a 3 and 5, aren't we? So we now put this one in here. Prop 3 goes to number 4 on there. This is prop 3 in there. Goes to number 4 on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Always worth checking as you're doing this that you're making sure you're putting all your wires in the same way around. So you can check the colours as you go. If you've got one that's wrong way around, it should stand out. Now I've got to put in number 5 in there now. Prop 5 goes to number 5 on the radio. So we put in number 5, which goes in that gap there. When I can get it in, here we go. Just push that in, that's gone in. That's my prop 5, and that goes to number 5 on my radio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's that gap there. And push that in. There we go. Now, you'll note on here that I've got the first 6 used up, and then numbers 7 and 8, 9 and 10 are not used at the moment. 7 and 8, 9 and 10. If we look on here, number 7 I'm going to use for roof beacons, so that's going to be a direct connection. Number 8 is going to be for the actuator unit on the back, so that's going to be a direct unit connection. It's not going through the SFR. Number 9 we've already connected, that was that one there, that's for the gears. And then number 10 I'm going to use for the roof spots that I'm going to fit again. That's going to be a direct connection to a switch. So we should have everything on there now connected how we want. I just used that ordinary one for channel 5 when I'd actually got one already labelled up for it. But it doesn't matter. I'll swap that one over later on. So I'm just having a quick double check that I've got everything in there that I want. I've got those 2 missing, which is correct. I've got the end one missing yet. So I've got 3 connections on here that I'm not using. 5 and 6 in there you can use to control the gears and other, like a 5th wheel servo if you want. And the one on the end there is a special one that's marked IR. That is if you're using the infrared diode for wireless trailer control with the infrared module. Again, I've fitted that many times, works very, very well. And where you would be fitting this and that on the back, in the middle of the truck, you'd also fit the small diode as well, and that works fine with the trailer. In fact, it'll work a good foot apart without any problem at all. So we're all ready to plug it in and try it out. Transmitter on first. That's running. I've got the switch set to off at the moment. Get the polarity right on there. Plug them together. Here we go. Receiver lights come on. My startup sound is working. So I've just turned that down for the moment. Good connection with the receiver there, showing 5 bars. Try and keep this somewhere now where you can see it and operate the various things. Now, first thing I want to check is motor control. On this switch here, switch D is the one that I set for cruise control, which is something you can do on Beier. When it's in the position it's in at the moment, there should be no cruise. I don't know whether you can see that, but the motor's spinning at the moment. And stops if I let go of the stick. If I move that switch now, cruise control should now be active. You notice now I've let go of the stick, but the motor is still running. And you pull down to slow it down, brake it to a stop. So that's working quite nicely. This is the steering servo here. What we can do now is that we know that that is the central position of the digital servo. So just for the moment I'm going to put that there so I know where it goes. Now which was I want to set up for gears? Number 9. That would be, I think, one of these. I'm not even sure which one I'm using myself. Oh, here we go. Switch E on the end, which is a 3-position switch. That's one of the gears, that'll be 2 of the gears, that'll be 3 of the gears. So that one there, if you like, is the centre position. So again, I'm just going to pull that off and I'm just going to put it back on near enough where the centre is. So we know both of those are more or less centre. So that's all working for the moment. Obviously once we get all the LEDs on and everything else, and I can start adding other things, because I've got this channel here that I can use, I've got this channel here I can use, that one there, C, which is also a 3-position switch, that is going to be the one that controls the actuator boom. So its normal position will be in the centre, and then you'll be able to raise it up and lower it down. That's the test done, all working. Well, that's it for this episode, viewers. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click on the like button and subscribe to my channel. In the next part we'll get the build underway, coming very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye now.